Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us on our inaugural Son of Mine panel discussion. For those of you joining in from Facebook and YouTube, you're welcome to click on the link you see in the comment section, which will bring you to the Zoom platform. Do take note that we'll be prioritizing Q&A for those on Zoom, so do click in and do a quick registration. Last week, we spoke to guests Cheryl Tan from the Brief Movement, Harry Dehan from Recover Now, and Dr. Wan Rizal on the topic of misinformation and misconception of mental health. For those of you who missed it, feel free to catch it on Son of Mine's YouTube channel. Today we have talented musicians, Jack Ho and Ray Kanu from Jack and Ray. Okay, we have Lewis, and we also have Kester Tay from Intra Cresco in the studios of FTTG Media. And we will be talking on the topic of breaking stigma, the vulnerability of men in music. A big thank you to everyone, okay, for taking the time to sit with us today. Before we dive deeper into the topic at hand, can we get everyone to take some time to introduce yourselves? Let's start off with Ray.
Yes. Hi, I am Ray from the band Jack and Ray, and I'm a singer and songwriter, and also part-time TV host as well of Talking Point on Channel 5. You guys have watched it. What's so funny?
Jack?
Breaking a stigma here.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jack, and the other half of Jack and Ray, and everything else he said. But and just super happy to be here today.
Kester?
Hi, I'm Kester. I'm an emotional wellness coach. I'm one half of Intra Cresco. So together with my partner Kavita, we help men, women, and families turn emotional pain into growth, relationship conflicts into connection, and crisis into resilience.
And Lewis?
Hi, I'm Lewis, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I like talking.
Okay, other than the fact that you are actually on Talking Point, how has coping with the lockdown and the restrictions on live music been for you? For both of you, Jack and Ray?
Hey, go first.
That was completely sucked. I mean, let's be real here. We found out that we weren't going to be live maybe from about March 26th last year. Still remember the date.
Yep.
So it's definitely been a challenge, for sure. We definitely seen at least a drop in income in at least about 50% or more. And of course, making the effort to try to do new things or learn new stuff along the way has been it's been a fun but interesting challenge as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much for me.
I was going to say, March 26th you said, and I clearly remembered our last gig. We knew that, when the lockdown happened and they announced all these, no live music stuff, and we were like, okay, last one, let's go. And thinking that, okay, maybe a couple of months down the road, things might get better. Wow, little did we know that, it's dragged on a year and a half or more. And like we were talking about, we just try to keep each other going. And I think one of the ways that we're very proud, and I'm very proud to say, is that we try to do a live stream on Sunday nights. And, and I think that especially keeps me, on my toes, and keep us just, having something to look forward to. One of the few ways that we've been coping, with this whole pandemic and what's been going on.
Okay. What about you, Liu?
Okay, yeah. So I'll start off with Ray's answer, which is sucked. It really just sucked. I think especially in August of 2020, that was, 2020, right? 2020. That was last year, right? Okay. Especially in August of 2020, it sucked so much because there was just so much pressure as an artist or as an entertainer to create content. My mental health was not good because there was just so many opportunities for me to compare myself to my peers, especially when you check up on Instagram or whatever social media platform you use on what your other musician friends are doing, and they're if they're getting a gig or if they're starting a new series or they're creating really high quality Instagram content, then you're do I need to start doing that? And then you feel this pressure to start creating content that you don't actually enjoy. And it took me like a few months to just get out of that mindset and realize like, hey, it's okay if it's okay if it sucks. Like it's okay if I'm not productive right now, because nobody's productive. Nobody is, and if they're productive, I mean, good for you. But also like, it's either that's where you're at, like right now in your life, or you're putting on a show. Like you're trying to make other people think that you have a lot going on when really you don't. And I think once I learned to accept that, then things got better. Then I started, coming back to music and coming back to like why I do music, which is to create like genuine connection with people versus creating little, like, no hate on TikTok, I love TikTok, but like creating like little 20, 30-second content that gets a lot of hits and gets a lot of views, but doesn't actually mean much to me. I don't know if you guys like experience that as well, like that pressure from social media.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, like when we started our live stream first, I think that was the first reaction that I had as soon as I heard that live music was going to stop. First thing I told Jack was like, okay, this Sunday we're going to start live streaming. And we went through maybe about 2 weeks of like R&D, testing every possible avenue to try to, and it got worse because after about 2 weeks later, I think, when we started a live stream at our guitar studio, 2 weeks later, I think they said, oh, you cannot meet up with anyone anymore. There's a lockdown, right?
Yeah, it started off with no live music, right?
Circuit breaker, right?
Circuit breaker.
Yeah. So, and that's when we were like, how do we play together without being together? And we tried every possible avenue. Didn't work because it's always a lag.
That's right. We still believe like, Ray, okay, I'm going to call you with my landline. We'll pump the video through and maybe landline faster. But then we sang Happy Birthday and it couldn't work.
Even Happy Birthday doesn't work.
Yeah, couldn't sing with the landline. Could be like super fast and keep up the video. But no. And we were like, oh no. So what next, right?
Yep. So we ended up So I think honestly, for me personally, that whole period of going through trying to live stream and move forward, I think was just honestly my knee-jerk reaction to the whole thing happening. I have got this mechanism within me when something catastrophic happens, right? I just completely shut it off, block it out, and then I say, okay, I'm moving forward, and I forget about everything else that's happened. I don't acknowledge what's happened, and that's a bad thing sometimes, because I forgot I had a future wife at the moment. So I was like, okay, let's work this thing and all that. And suddenly, like my partner's like, hey,
You forgot about
I'm here.
I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, but so that's the way I guess I kind of cope with things, right? And so that whole thing kept me busy. I was happy learning new things and all, and trying to live stream. And we just felt live streaming was the next best thing to playing live, right? Our live gigs were actually almost our entire lives. Our social life was in our live gigs, because that's where we meet friends and that's where we talk to people. Of course, our main source of income is from there. So when you don't have that source of income, you're like, how am I going to pay the mortgage this month? And so obviously a lot goes on in your head. Yeah. That close. So I think it was a challenging period initially, and I think it's still challenging, to be honest. But we tried to cope with it. Along the way, there's a lot of downs, and it's really a matter of, I think, being aware of yourself and not falling into that rut. And it's not easy to not fall in. Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of peer pressure. There's a lot of people creating content online, and you're like, oh, how should I do that? Do I need to do that? Do I need to be this? I'm not being sincere to myself. There are all these questions that run around your head. And you deal with that daily. Really, I mean, it's a new challenge in life for me, and again, I'm just going to try and take it moving forward.
Okay. We'll go into that deeper side later. Maybe now, Castor, you can introduce yourself.
I'm Castor. I used to be a diplomat, and then I felt like I felt a deeper calling to serve others through this work, through helping people heal from trauma and achieve higher state of mental and emotional wellness.
Okay.
So right now, through Intro Cresco, we work with individuals as well as youth to strengthen their emotional resilience. So our belief is that most mental health problems come because of our disconnection with our own emotions. So emotions are like the true essence of who we are. You know, when we were children, the way that we sensed the world was through emotions. Like what we like, whether we like eating this or eating that, our emotions will tell us, no, I like it or not. Or whether we like this person or not, our emotions will tell us whether we whether we cry or whether we smile, right? So, but the thing is, over time, as we grow up in the society, we are taught that certain emotions are good or certain emotions are bad. You know, only happy emotions are good, anger, sadness, those are bad. So what we do is we tend to compartmentalize. We put certain emotions into a box. And the thing is, these emotions don't go away. And when we suppress these emotions, actually, they go into our subconscious and they come out in more scary ways. They come out in like depression, they come out in anger, but in unconscious moments. So what we do at Intro Cresco is to connect people back with their emotions and tell them that, hey, you know, like all these things that you guys experienced during the pandemic, it's a normal part of human experience. You know, it's okay to be not okay. And when you accept that fact, actually you find yourself able to move on better. You know, you're like, okay, so there's no more resistance when you do that. So when we feel an uncomfortable emotion, a common response is to resist that. You say, no, I shouldn't be feeling this. You know, I shouldn't be feeling stressed. I shouldn't be feeling anxious. And when we do that, actually, we block that emotion from flowing through us, because the emotion is just an energy that, if we allow it to just surface and be expressed in ourselves, it will eventually pass. And we will come to a place of calmness, and in that calmness, we will be in a better position to receive information about what to do next. So once we accept that resistance starts to relax, and we are more accepting of that situation. So that's what we do at Intro Cresco.
Okay, okay. You mentioned earlier about suppressing of emotions. You know, as guys, you know, there's a lot of people who say that if a man, you know, reveals their emotion, you know, they are weak. What do you have to say to that? You know, for guys who suppress their emotions because, you know, that is not how a man should be. Yeah.
I think definitely there's been a stigma in society about men showing emotions and that being seen as weak. But if we look at that as like something that's actually socially constructed, it's like not completely true at all, right? Like a guy can fall into a spectrum of someone who's very emotional, someone who's very intellectual, and every guy we know from experience has a different personality. But if we try to understand why do we have this stigma in society, if you look at our history, we have had imperialist societies and countries, and being strong was a matter of survival, right? Even now, if you read the news, you see China is systematically trying to eradicate this idea of a feminine man.
Male,
And it could stem from their fear of, oh, if our men grow up like that, who will join the military? How are we going to defend ourselves? So if you understand it from that perspective, you realize that this idea of men showing emotions being weak is not a real one. It's something that society has constructed, and that we can decide for ourselves, you know, who we want to be. But that said, men are biologically, innately wired to deal with emotions differently. So we all actually have two aspects of two main aspects of us. One is individuality, and the other is connection. So these are two very important desires that we have and needs that we have. But in men, in general, the desire for individuality is stronger.
Okay.
And and in women, the desire for connection is stronger. So individuality corresponds with things like your need to explore the world, to explore your individuality, who you are as a unique person, to have freedom. And connection is your ability to empathize, your need to be emotionally connected with someone. So because of this more dominant individuality in men, it actually is a good thing, because this aspect is what helps us to survive in crisis. Right? Men are more able to put their emotions aside and think, okay, what does it need? What needs to be done in this moment? But what happens also because of this individuality, in this dominance of this individuality aspect in us, we tend to think that we can solve everything ourselves. We tend to be over independent, and we feel like, and sometimes because of this, we are less likely to seek help or support from other people. And this is the whole journey of life, actually, to find a balance between individuality and connection. So we want to be in a relationship where we are able to be ourselves, and that person loves us for who we are, right? Yeah.
Absolutely true. We always tell our wifeys, like, we want to explore our individualities and be ourselves. They say, shut up and sit down. No, just kidding. Sorry.
So for women, it's the opposite, right? They want to always be in connection. It's how, so in this kind of relationships, actually, it's the perfect opportunity to balance, to come into balance with each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said, man.
Yeah.
Liu, you've lived in both the East and the West.
Yes.
In terms of men's mental health, is it very different? Men seeking treatment in East, in Asia, as compared to in the Western world?
Yeah, I mean, I guess stating the obvious, in the East, we still have a lot of work to do in terms of mental health, because we're definitely still in that frame of mind where it's like, if it doesn't show up as a bruise, it doesn't exist, which obviously that's not true. When I was studying in Boston at Berkeley, it's a music school, counseling and therapy was advertised everywhere at our school, like on our campus. And it was like that kind of exposure, or that kind of like advertising, that actually encouraged me to go get some counseling 2 years ago. And like, for the most part, I like to reflect a lot. So I knew I had all of these issues that I had to deal with. I just didn't know where to start. And that's why, like, going to get like a professional to help me, it was like one of the best things I could do for myself, because you not only like start to dissect and break down like why you have these issues, but you also learn a lot of tools to self-regulate, which I think is such an important tool that not just men, but every single person on this earth needs, because there's going to be a time where you don't have that person that you can call, or you don't have you don't have that person that you usually need, and you're going to have to fix it yourself. And that's where self-regulation comes to play. It's like, now when I get a wave of anxiety, or if I get an emotion that I don't want in me, I have coping mechanisms. I know what to do. And it's not just, oh, I feel so frustrated, let me carry this for the rest of the day. Like, now I have little steps that I can take, like, is it meditation, or is it me going for a run, or do I call a friend? And these tools is what is helping me, especially during this pandemic. Yeah.
Okay. Jack, so how has music helped you in your mental health?
Well, I honestly have to say that, I mean, backtrack to, the part where when the whole pandemic first started, I was devastated. I think, Ray was saying that, your coping mechanism, you just focus on the next step and whatever, the streaming stuff.
Yep.
I just felt completely out, and I know that obviously my wifey, being the closest person, we're obviously at home much more, and she's seen me go through all this emotional. I mean, I know I'm generally a very happy person. Everyone always look at me and think that I'm like this happy, no one can shake me up kind of person. But I think definitely I really felt really lost, and sometimes when I'm grateful that you or Ray, kick my ass and just say, let's go, and just stream. And I found that, sometimes, at that level, I just go to the studio, hang out with you, we'll just get busy, and sometimes just doing something, I think it just takes my mind off the whole situation. And it definitely made me feel better. And I felt that, as we embarked on all these different live streams, and we had a few gigs here and there, it really just kept my mind off certain things. But but music is definitely took my mind off that whole main part of just feeling so shitty about myself.
Yeah, because you were shitty, that you felt shitty.
Yeah.
Because music was off, but you also use music as a tool.
Yes. Sorry, we promise not to use it.
Yes.
Hey, shitty is fine. Come on.
Yeah, I think shitty is fine.
It's okay.
Yeah. What about for you, Ray? Mental wellness. What do you do to keep yourself in check? Probably?
So I think since that period in time, right? Learning all these new technologies in music, definitely helped me a lot to distract myself from the problem. Yes, I'll say that it was just a distraction, seriously. But as time went by, and I kind of realized that you fall back into the whole thing. I actually come from I studied sports psychology when I was in uni. So I come from a sports psychology background. I used to be a school teacher. So, and part of my sports psychology thesis was I was studying, doing some stuff on exercise and depression. So from there, I picked up a few things. I was reading up a lot about this kind of stuff. And that's when I started to understand maybe more coping mechanisms. Not for myself at that point in time, of course. It was like, okay, how do I help someone else? And I think along the way, during this past 2 years, there are moments where I do fall into that pit, and I'm like, okay, I just got to keep going. There's nothing happening. There's nothing rewarding that I see coming out of the efforts that I'm putting in, But the great thing is, I've got a supportive wife. She always reminds me, like, yeah, you did this and you've done this. These are your victories, right? And slowly, I kind of started to realize the small victories, are the ones that keep you in check a little bit more. So what I did from there was, okay, I'm not going to focus on the big picture so much. Start just charting my week on small victories. So music has helped me a lot because it's my passion, right? So I write something new a week. I love singing in harmonies. So I post a video of myself singing a bunch of harmonies. I don't care who watches it anyway. Yeah. But I enjoy doing it, right? So I like it. And then I'm like, okay, I sound pretty all right. No auto-tune, nothing. I think I'm pretty okay, Or even recently I started going down to practice guitar solo. So I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn this guitar solo because I haven't learned it before. So just start learning it, Master it part by part, day by day. And I think that is kind of what keeps me going at this point in time. It took me about a year plus to actually learn to move into that direction. But it helps me a lot right now. And Ted Lasso.
Okay.
Actually, my wife actually bought me the sign for my birthday, Believe, the one that he puts on the board.
Okay.
I actually saw that and I was like, you know what? You're right. It's time to believe. So yeah.
Okay. During in the past year, you guys did a mockumentary, the
Yes,
Ramen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you want to share with us a bit more on that?
Wow, I mean, we're definitely grateful that through the whole last 18, 20 months, we've been lucky enough to work with very talented and good friends. And Ramen came about because I think one of our good friends, Locke, or Henry, as we properly call him, he's a director. So he pitched this program, and he got a bit of funding, and that's how he approached the both of us to fuse music, the two blokey cells that we are, and also our little restaurant that we have. So that's how Ramen came about, where, I mean, in a nutshell, it's the two of us going out there and finding the next local flavor to the Singapore ramen. Or what we
So essentially, we played ourselves.
Yeah.
Great. We were like, be as blokey as you want. I'm like, yeah! That's the other thing we're good at aside from music, just being blokes.
So that came about, and and definitely, again, like you said, the little things that happen along the way, we just get busy with it, have fun, and we're just grateful that we've got some stuff that we've been working on. We got to work with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Kester, coping mechanisms, as per what they shared earlier, good or bad? Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's I mean, it might not be useful to categorize it into good or bad.
Okay.
But because for everyone, it really depends on what works for you, and if that works for you, I mean, that's really great. And I think it's just about seeing where you are and what do you need in that moment. So I think for many people who are in this facing challenges, there comes a moment where you reach a place of stuckness, where you feel like there's nothing. You feel like, oh, I'm out of options. I have tried everything, and that's where, when we get too much in our heads, that's when we can go down the negative thought spiral. So our minds are like a bullet train. Every time we think a thought, it will bring a more negative thought. It will bring an even more negative thought, and that's how it really can spiral down. So it's important to bring ourselves out of that stuckness by just doing something, anything that you feel that you think will get you moving. And like what Ray said, it's good to start something small, right? And I think for many people, the reason why we can't move out from that stuckness is because we want to get to a place that is so much further than where we are, and just thinking about how are we going to get there makes us feel more stuck.
It's like overwhelming.
Yeah.
If I can add to that, and this is something I realized a while ago, it's always about what's within your locus of control. If there are things, I mean, I've come across some people who told me like, oh yeah, when someone else is happy, it makes me happy. But I'm like, your happiness is dependent on something else. It's not dependent on the things that you can control. And I feel that realizing what is within your control kind of helps you a little bit in that sense. That if you can adjust the things that you control, at least it gives you a little bit more satisfaction that, why is it that I can't do this for this person, or why is it that I can't achieve something like somebody else? It's more what's within your control. That's kind of what I feel. Yeah.
Okay. Liu, you did a series called Letters to Let Go Of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share with us a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So the great part about my job is that being emotional pays the bills. Because
what a way to put
I
it.
remember like when I told my dad that I was broken up by my ex-boyfriend, and the first thing he said was like, isn't that good? Because then you can just write your next album, make money, because like you're not making money right now. And I was like, like, thanks for being supportive, but like but along those lines, basically, after the end of a relationship, there are like little mementos that you, whether subconsciously or consciously keep. For me, it was these love letters because that relationship was long distance. And during the pandemic, I moved around a lot, and I kept bringing these letters with me because I was like, I can't just throw them away, right? Like somebody spent time to write these for me, and I brought them to Idaho, which is where my mom's at, and I stayed with her for a few months, and she was like, "Why do you even have these?" And I was like, "I don't have it. I don't actually have an answer." And I decided to start like this mini series called Letters to Let Go Of, where I would pick out a random love letter in front of the camera, read it out loud. I cut out what the contents was, I kind of paraphrased it, and then I turned it into a song. And then after I finished writing the song, I like basically found different ways to let go of it. So one of them, I burned it in like a barbecue pit. Another one, like I buried it in the garden. I just found different ways to like let go of this letter. And then at the end of the series, I basically just chucked the rest. And I think for me, it was like it's like a less destructive way to like move on from something. I mean, yeah, I still burned the letter, but I created something like beautiful out of it. And like now this song encapsulates what that time was or what that relationship was. And yeah, just speaking on being vulnerable as musicians or just as men, I think like so much of the reason why I can sit here and talk very comfortably about it is because I really had like the privilege of spending a lot of time with friends and family who just don't judge. I mean, everybody judges to some extent, right? But I think like going back on Kester's point about individuality, like learning how to express yourself and talking about like destigmatizing things that we all learned. You know, for example, like internal homophobia, that's one, or what we should wear. You know, because what you see on TV is you see men wearing blue. That's why I'm wearing blue, because men wear blue. No, but like you know what people wear, or another thing is like how you should act in social interactions. You know, like if you are the man, like you need to keep your stance and your body shape big because you want to take up space. But it's like all of us on this table, the people behind the cameras, everybody has their own soul, has their own individual identity. And when we don't get to explore that, you end up just choking yourself. That's what you end up doing. And like, again, like I'm so happy with my journey so far, you know, like being in Singapore, if you see a man who paints his nails, you're probably gonna stare and be like, why is he painting his nails? Or like, if you see, I think like a more dramatic thing is like, if you see a man wearing a dress, at the end of the day, it's just cloth, right? Like, why is it so triggering for so many people? And it's literally because of all these social stigmas that we learnt growing up. And now, like, you sitting here, you watching this live stream, you're taking that step to remove these things from your life so that you can be yourself, be happy, be free, just, you know?
That's awesome.
Respect, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever do anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, wow, yeah, that's amazing.
To just be that honest, but I was just gonna change topic then and say that wow, those were physical letters that you had. I thought
No, it's like actual letters, love letters.
Yeah, I thought you were going to bury your computer.
Yeah, and my ex had like beautiful handwriting too. So it was like, it wasn't like some like shitty like hi, I love you, I miss you. No, it's like carefully he typed it out and then wrote it, you know? So it was like perfect grammar, and then I was like, burn it.
Well, thanks for sharing that story, man.
Oh, that's amazing, man.
There's another story actually which came in on Zoom from Stephen Chu. There's a few parts to it. I'll go through the second part first. Thankfully, practicing music has been a tremendous help and distraction from hurt and pain. I found the strategy of penning a letter to oneself, just like in the musical Dear Evan Hansen, has helped. At present, I'm coming to terms that my father is the man who birthed me, but not my dad. Okay, then I'll go back to the first part. He's a graduate student who lived in Australia. a vocalist in training himself, coming back to Singapore and sharing the same space with my father, who has been verbally abusive and passive aggressive, taking his anger out on me and putting it on my mom instead. It's been extremely trying to step around eggshells. Have any of you experienced living in with a narcissistic abusive parent? Yeah, and if there's any experiences to share or anything to help. Yeah. Perhaps we can go to Castor. Yeah, I'm not really sure, if we can, but yeah, what would you advise?
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That's very brave of you, and I really feel you. Thank you so much. It is really a very, very difficult environment to live in. And emotional abuse, studies have shown it is worse than physical abuse because the effects actually last much longer. And they leave a really deep scar in us. So, I think what we have seen in many families is that there's sometimes one person who takes on a lot of the emotional burden. Like when something goes wrong, this person is the kind of scapegoat for everything that goes wrong. And we find that actually from our experience journey with clients, this person actually is the most important person in the healing of the family. Because when this person starts to process that trauma and emotions, it starts to speak out, set boundaries, it starts to break the cycle of that narcissist and sensitive person. So the cycle that I'm talking about is a narcissist, and that usually, what is attracted to that is usually someone who's more emotionally sensitive, which some people call empaths. So what's important is to identify a pattern in your life that is repeating. So for example, every time your family member blows up and takes it on you, what do? Do you take it? You don't draw boundaries, and then after that you blame yourself, and that allows that person to continue doing the same thing, and this happens over and over again. So how do you break out of this cycle? So the first step is identifying that this cycle exists, being aware that this is a cycle that keeps on happening, and if I don't do something differently from the last time, it's going to keep on happening. So first thing is to be aware. Second thing is to seek support, resources online, or people who are able to guide you on this. In such a situation, it's very important to have self-care, to have self-awareness, because in such a situation, your family members might not be we all seek for validation and love from our family members, and in this situation, you are unable to get that from your family members. So you kind of have to be your own savior in this moment. You have to find a way to take care of yourself, to take care of your own emotions, which are screaming actually for attention, and slowly build yourself up. And as you are doing that too, you start to also start to learn how to speak your truth, to voice out your authentic, your needs, where your boundaries are, and shifts will slowly start to happen. And music is actually a very, very powerful way of doing this, because the voice is, singing is actually energetically linked to our ability to speak our truth. When you are using your voice to sing, you are, even physically, you're bringing the air from your lungs, from your chest and your heart, to express it out to the world, right? And you can use this process to speak. First of all, on your own, you can use this process to express your emotions in private. And just through this process, you start getting used to speaking your truth, which I think in this situation, in such situations, you have never been able to do for many years. Your emotions have been neglected by people around you. So just by using music, singing your truth, whatever song that resonates with you, sing it out loud. Whatever sound that you feel is within you, whatever emotion that is within you, sing it out loud. That will help you to speak out in your family. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I think it's also great that you are so self-aware already. You know, like you mentioned that you write letters to yourself, and I think the fact that you're already doing that is something to like not discount, you know. Of course, every single person has their own family dynamic and family situation, and like I was that emotional scapegoat in the family, and I'm not blaming my family because I was also a very troublesome kid, but it did take a lot of like what Kester was saying, like breaking cycles to just as a family unit level up, you know, because the cycle that I was in was like I was very jealous of my twin sister because we were treated differently because I was male and she was female, and then I would take it out on her, and then she would tell my mom, who would tell my dad, who would, you know, do whatever he needed to do to let out his anger back at me, and then I would get angry, take it out on my sister, and then the cycle continues. And then just like when it clicked in me that like, hey, if I take this negative energy and turn it into like music or turn it into something else, I'm actually stopping the cycle. And when I started doing that, it also taught me how to communicate my emotions to my family better. You know, like instead of shouting at them and being resentful, you know, it started being like more like I would start writing letters to them. I think when people read handwritten letters in their own voice, it actually makes it can sometimes make connections because you know, it's very different when you receive negative feedback about how you treat people from shouting versus like, let's say Ray had an issue with me and you wrote this letter to me and I read it and I'm like, damn it, like I've been mistreating this person. And I'm not saying that this is the solution because I don't know your solution and there's a million ways to move on from this, but for me it's like find that way of communication that works with your father or with your family. And if you can't talk to your father yet, talk to your family because they are in your household, they understand the context best out of all of us. Like we don't know the context. And if you can build that community within your family, then hopefully you're a step closer to a solution. Yeah.
Okay. What are some signs that indicate a shout for help, and is it different for men and women? Yeah.
Okay. There are, so it's not a science. So I think many I mean you might see many information out there, a lot of information out there. They might give you a list like, oh, this person is lacking sleep or has this person has less energy, lower levels of energy. Doesn't seem him or herself, or is not performing at school or at work.
Yep.
So, but you need to combine these factors together with feeling. So, when you're with someone, just giving that person your full presence and attention helps you to feel what is actually going on beneath the surface, because most of the time someone will say I'm fine, someone will say I'm okay, and if you just take their word for it, it's very hard to find out what's really happening. And if you read the stories of parents whose children have committed suicide or went to a killing spree in school, for example, in some US cases, the parents most parents have no idea, and they're like, oh, listen, even we as parents, we should have known. Why did we not know? So many times it's because we are hearing what people are saying, what the people around us are saying, but we're not feeling what they're actually saying. So they might be saying, I'm okay, but underneath that I'm okay might be a sense of loneliness, a deep sense of sadness. And sometimes there's no science about it. There's no exact thing that you can look out for that will tell you this person is going through something difficult. Sometimes you just have to be completely, give that person your attention and try to read beneath those, read in between the lines to sense something deeper. And sometimes it's, I mean, you can also actually just set the intention. If this is what you want to do to others, set intention that I want to be able to know whenever people around me need my support. And I want this sign to come to me in a way that I'm able to understand. So sometimes it might come in, say, you actually physically feel what this person is going through, or you might, sometimes it might come in a dream, maybe, or sometimes it might come in a flashing thought. So there are many different ways of building this feeling aspect of us, or you might also call it an intuition aspect of us.
Okay. For Jack and Ray, you guys are 20-year veterans in the music scene, at least 20 years. Yeah, close to 20 years together. How is the music landscape different in terms of showing vulnerability in music back then, and perhaps then after that we can move to Liu for right now? Yeah.
We're from different generations. You guys look so young.
Yeah, I thought 20 plus. I don't know.
20 plus.
That's an interesting one. You know, I mean, of course, growing up, you know, Jack and I guess our influences were always rock gods, right? You know, you always look at the guitarist with the leather jeans, you know, you playing loud riffs, showing complete invulnerability, knowing about all their trashing of hotel rooms, and you know, and then, you know, after a while you kind of read up more about them and you realize that they all also had some kind of trying period or something that they went through that resulted in those behaviors or, you know, certain triggers. You know, I mean, you talk about, like, we grew up in the 90s, which is grunge era, right? And in a way, I think that genre of music actually exposed men's vulnerability, but in a manner that I think a lot of people didn't see it. It was rock music, you know. But at the same time, a lot of the sounds from people like Soundgarden or Pearl Jam all had a place, the lyrics all have a certain vulnerability about them, an emotion. And it was always about being disturbed about something or going through a crisis or, you know, something like that. So it's only after I went out of that phase, like 90s, and now I've just revisited it because I've got a band that does tributes to 90s grunge. And I realized, wow, you know, they were actually, you know, talking about it in their songs. But also because of that whole stigma that they have to maintain this certain image, right? I think a lot of the suffering went behind closed doors without a lot of people realizing. So, for example, like, you know, like Chris Cornell suffered mental health problems for very long and was on medication, blah, blah, you know. And of course, when he passed away, also was in one of those situations where, you know, he hung himself. And I think it's only when you kind of realize that when they hit the end and they did this, Kurt Cobain shot himself, for God's sake, you know. And then compared to like now, I think, you know, in like Yu's generation, which is not very far from ours. I mean, you start seeing, I think, musicians not just exposing their vulnerability, male musicians, but also more male musicians, not just singing about it, but they're also talking about it, you know. And they're talking about how they felt this way, how they got help, or, you know, and things like that, or how they need help. And I think that is a progression that I've seen from maybe the 80s till now, that they are being more vocal about it. rather than just always writing the songs and be like, this guy's, I think he's got some issues, but hey, the song is great. And you realize that it just masks everything, right? It's a great song and you enjoy it, you rock on, but when you think about it, what are they really singing about? It's their suffering, it's their vulnerabilities, their emotions.
Sound of Silence. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Guys, that's such a good song. Let's all sing it together. This guy's literally suffering in silence.
Right. So, but I'm going to throw that to you. So, what do you feel? If you explore music along the ages,
I think so much of music is related to how society is, right? Like, that's why pop music changes all the time. And I think what I've seen is like a big wave of like ballad songs, and like I think actually those kinds of songs is what is opening up the conversation with, like if you hear this man singing about like how could I let you go, and you're the only person that's the most important thing to me or whatever, right? Like I think when people listen to those songs, they realize like, oh wait, I'm in that situation, but I have never said it out loud, and somebody else is saying it out loud, so that means it's normal to feel this way. Like I'm a huge lover of sad music because like I use this analogy a lot, like happy music makes happy people feel good. It's like a steroid, right? It makes you feel great. But happy music makes sad people feel lonely. Whereas sad music, if you're happy, like it doesn't really affect you. You're just like, can we not listen to this song? But if you're a sad person listening to sad music, it makes you feel like you have somebody there. And that's why I love sad music, because it always knows how to remind you that what you're going through is like normal, like in a very harsh way, like you're not that special. Like many people have gone through heartbreak, many people have gone through what you're going through, and that should bring you comfort, right? And then on the point of like being able to talk about our vulnerabilities, I think like nowadays there's this celebration of like unique identity, where in the past I think with like rock gods, the idea of them being untouchable and so super strong gave a lot of like people this like idol to look up to. But I think nowadays I see this like breakdown in celebrity culture where the people who are actually super well loved in society are the people who are relatable, like a little bit closer to me, as opposed to like if you look at the red carpet, for example, like it's no longer just A-list actors and celebrities. It's like people who are on YouTube or people who are TikTok stars, and it's because they've created this culture of I'm this everyday guy who just so happens to get a lot of followers, but I'm just like you. Today I'm having a shitty day, but I still have to do my job. And then you are reminded as the viewer like, oh, I can still go do my job and I'm allowed to have a shitty day, versus like put on this performance or like, have you guys heard of toxic positivity? Yeah, it's like this idea that like you have to constantly exude positive energy and like, guys, everything's great. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and like, if you get vaccinated, then the world's gonna be better. It's like, come on, like we all know that that's not actually how it works. And I'm sure, like, as entertainers, we've all been in that position where we are having a shitty day or we don't feel good, but we know that to be professional, we need to show up on stage and like, come, let's sing the NDP song, and everything's gonna be great again. Like, this is home. There's no racism in Singapore. Like we've all been there, and nowadays we're allowed to be more transparent with how we feel. Yeah.
Jack, you?
No, I agree, and I was just going to say, in terms of like music side, even sports, I think recently I've seen so many, like you said, professional sports people out there just saying that no, I can't do this post press conference. What's the tennis player?
Naomi.
Naomi, yeah. And of course, even during the Olympics, right? Some of the gymnasts.
Amanda Biles.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think back to the whole common thread of music. I think I think it's changed, and I think a lot of us are able to express ourselves more honestly. And I find that like even in terms of the persona or the image that you put out to whether your fans or your followers, I think you can be that much more sincere just because of. And again, I was going to say, back in our days, there was no Facebook. It was when we started music, no social media, absolutely. But somehow, for better or worse, I think it's for the better, but sometimes it can also be quite, it's a tricky balance to strike. Yeah.
Okay. Before we wrap up, any...
So fast?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we are moving on very quickly. I have no clue why.
But you love to talk.
I know, right?
Where's the alcohol? My coping, I'm kidding.
Just to wrap up, what advice would each of you offer to those who are struggling, with anxiety, mental health conditions? Yeah, maybe we go down the table from Ray.
Okay, I'm no guru at this.
Yep.
I'm also learning as I go along and dealing with my own stresses and causes of anxiety and stuff. But I would say just try to back once in a while to be aware of what you're feeling and what caused it. And I think acknowledging that root is probably very important in starting to recover from it. And I'm trying to learn to acknowledge as I speak, something that I'm not very good at. So I think it helps me a lot when I actually just take a step back and look at it again.
Jack?
I think this realizing that it's okay not to be okay. I think I've learned a lot about this point over the last, like you said, 18-20 months, and I also feel that it's important to be just present with yourself. Don't overthink things and all these things you have to do, but I think appreciate the people around you. Your whether it's your wifey, your dad, your mom. For me, I'm super grateful that I have a very active, naughty, loud, noisy 3-year-old girl that's keeping me totally busy. But sometimes, as much as it's frustrating to so many things to do, but I'm just so happy that she's the most awesome distraction. So I think appreciate the moment, what you have, and don't overthink things.
Kester?
Well, I hope today's conversation has shown any of you struggling out there that all of us go through this nonsense, called life, and
Who put us here?
and all of us didn't expect to go through this when we were born, but we were just given surprises in life, and it's okay. I think something that I hope will help is to know that whatever challenges that you're going through, whatever emotions you're going through, whatever negative thoughts you're having, that they are not part of you. They do not define you. Challenges come and go. Life goes up and down, and I mean, we are here and we have overcome some of our challenges, but I mean, if you caught us back when we were in the midst of the pandemic, we were probably sobbing, crying, like banging tables and drinking a lot, or doing anything to make it better. So you're not alone. It's a normal part of life, and you will, as long as you keep moving, you will overcome it.
Liu?
I would say, as much as some of us like to distract ourselves from the issue, I would say, feel it, really just accept that this is what you're going through. For example, if you have anxiety, just acknowledge it and don't run away from it, because the wave may pass, but the cause of it is not going to go away. So I would say sit with it, call a friend if you need to, breathe. Like, if you can learn some good breathing techniques, it really helps. And yeah, just to expand on Ray's suggestion, like zoom out. Like, you know, if you can close your eyes and just look at yourself from this bird-eyes view, and not just from like the lens of like just Singapore, like really zoom out. Imagine you're in space and you're looking at yourself, and just realize, like, you know, I'm what I'm going through is manageable. I don't know if that makes sense, but like for me, zooming out helps a lot. Just like taking a step back, like you said, and then just trying to view your current state or your issue from that perspective, and not just the person that is experiencing it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much to everybody, Jack and Ray.
Thank you.
Kester Tay, as well as Liu Lo. To all of you at home, okay, the conversation doesn't end here. Next week, on the 22nd of October, we will be speaking on workplace mental health. Okay, joining us is Dr. James Lim from Essex Business School, Evelyn Lee from Prospect Music Therapy, Evelyn Quack from Great Place to Work, ASEAN and ANZ, and Vera So from LinkedIn Singapore. Follow us on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, where we will further discuss issues on mental health. Until then, see you next week.